Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Hoey?
Here.
Mayor Kennedy?
Here.
Ms. Martin? Here. Mr. Dakota?
Here.
Ms. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Gendron?
Here.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. The first order of business is special order, the Spotlight on Excellence Youth Mental Health First Aid presentation. Is it someone to make that presentation, Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you. I'm going to ask Ms. Durkin to have her team give us that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kilfawi. At this time, I'd introduce District Support Social Worker Ingrid Markman and District Support Specialist Nancy Crones, both of the Student Support Services Office. Through the collaborative effort with Project Learn, we were fortunate enough to receive a $100,000 grant that will take us through next September, in order to provide youth mental health first aid training district-wide. Like Lowell always does, we did it in a unique way. We did it as a community-wide effort, and we enlisted the support of volunteers throughout the community to help us to train all the staff we needed to train. So tonight, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Nancy Crones and Ingrid Markman. I'd also like to thank Jack Pennard for putting together the presentation for tonight.
Okay. I can't really see if that's a slideshow. Let's see. I think it does. Okay. Hi. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy, and members of the school committee and members of the school administration for allowing us the opportunity to talk about youth mental health first aid today. Youth mental health first aid is a federal grant that was awarded to Lowell Public Schools in September 2014, and it enabled us to have members of the school and community partners to be trained as instructors in youth mental health first aid, and they went out and trained community members and school staff in the program. This was a grant that was one of a few grants that were awarded nationwide following the Sandy Hook tragedy. And the goal is really to train participants in identifying signs and symptoms of mental illness and learning how to respond to youth experiencing mental health crisis. So what is youth mental health first aid? It is similar to the medical first aid model, which it's the first aid that is offered to a youth experiencing a mental health crisis until appropriate help is secured or the crisis resolves. It's an 8-hour training. It's taught by 2 instructors, and the goal is to really identify the signs and symptoms early on and connect youth to needed supports, because we know that early intervention leads to better outcomes for youth. This training is it's an 8-hour training. It's a hands-on practical training with lots of opportunities for role-playing and activities, so participants really learn the skills and are able to practice the skills and what to say and what to do with youth when they're experiencing different crisis situations. Some of the crisis situations are in front of you. It's things like suicidal thoughts, attempts, or self-harm, trauma, panic attacks, acute psychosis, and substance abuse, among others. So participants leave feeling comfortable with what to do in these situations. I have a manual here, so each participant receives a manual, which was also purchased through the grant, and it's a reference guide for them to use when they're done with the training. If anybody would like to take a look at that after, you're welcome. There is a action plan that's used throughout the training, and we go into this action plan throughout the training to really give a framework for what to do when faced with a youth who's experiencing some sort of mental health problem. It's an acronym that is ALGE, and it stands for Assess for Risk, Listen Non-Judgmentally, Give Reassurance and Information, Encourage Appropriate Professional Help, and encourage self-help and other strategies. Much of this training really stems from what we know about resiliency and protective factors with youth. We know that when faced with difficulties, youth tend to have better outcomes when there's a caring adult in their life that listens to them, when they're provided hope, support, and information, and when adults understand symptoms of mental illness and know what to do. And also when they're guided through the process of how to access supports. These are just some of the evidence of mental health first aid nationwide, some of the things that happen as a result of this. And these are all really important things for our community and for the youth in our community. I think one of the most important things is that it really serves to destigmatize mental illness by raising awareness. We know that stigma can impede on a youth accessing supports or seeking supports, or even in people offering supports. There is a quick, just 4-minute video of some of the participants who went through the training. And I just want to say that a lot of the feedback we've been getting from participants who have taken the training, whether it's school staff or community members, has been really positive. Many people who took the training feel that everybody should take the training. There should be more people. So it's been nice to hear. Let's see if I can see this. No.
You need to say minimize, right?
Well, no, there's just a little icon. Sorry. Okay.
To figure out how to get the video to play.
Sorry.
So go back.
Yeah.
and-
Good. Thank you. Just trying to get to the video. Oh. Okay, that's what I can't read. Okay. There's the video. Yeah, I know. Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
The man behind the curtain. Now do you have to?
Nope. There we go.
There we go.
So some of the positive experiences of the training in terms of preparation for responding to mental health problems that I experience. For me, it was really a confirmation of what I do on a daily basis and how it actually impacts the students. Something as simple as standing in the hallway and students I don't even have in class, but I see them on a daily basis walking the halls, and I ask, how are you today? And you really see them, the students lighten up and respond, oh, I'm okay, thank you. And even in my classroom, when students walk in, I just, how are you today? And how's your day going? Just simple questions like that. The class gave examples of individuals who have contemplated suicide, and they discussed how if just one person reached out to them, then they would have maybe not gone through with the act. So it was really just that confirmation that what I'm doing is important.
I believe that this training has opened up an area for me where I can take a student and be a little more soft. I suppose that's the word I want to use with how they're feeling. And when I approach a student, I'm not so quick to tell them to get off to class. Sometimes I have a conversation with them. They might not be feeling so terrific that day, or something has occurred. And just to hear a kind word might make it better for them during the day. I feel that this training is beneficial to all of us as employees, for a better understanding of what our students are feeling and dealing with every day.
The course did prepare me for a couple of responses that I could use in real life situations. One thing that it did was it gave a plan. It gave almost a flow chart type plan, which was really helpful to have something solid to refer to, you know, who I could talk to, which steps I could take, what I could do on my own independently, and at what point I needed to use other resources and call in, you know, administration or social workers. It gave me more confidence in dealing with the issues that I had dealt with in the past. With my background, I've dealt with some in the past, but there was always this hesitation on my end. I'm not a psychologist, I am not a social worker. Where is that line? And this course helped me give you some confidence in where that line was. Since taking the training, actually as a member of the leadership team in the building, I've been able to bring it to them. This is becoming a building-wide conversation. What can we do? So I was able to bring some of what I've learned to the leadership team, and we are going to see what we can do. It's on our agenda. How can we use this to help communicate to the rest of the building? It's also great for the teachers who, even the teachers who haven't taken the course, I've been able to talk to, or they've come to me or another one of the people in the building who've taken the course for just some quick things, how to identify signs, or, you know, using us as little kind of mini experts. And we've been able to tell them, you know, this course was great, this is what we've seen, this is what, you know, and share what we've learned from it.
So, my junior students are writing persuasive essays, and I actually had a couple of students who wrote their persuasive essays about mental illness and how it's real and how it needs to be addressed. And I was able to show them the book that I received from the training and let them know that the city of Lowell and Lowell Public Schools are really educating staff members about mental illness. And we had a great conversation about how it's real and is not something that should be ignored. And then I was able to just remind them that there are services in the high school and outside of the high school once they move on, that there are plenty of organizations throughout the city that can help them if they need it.
So since the grant was initiated, 379 members of the Lowell Public Schools and the greater Lowell community have been trained in youth mental health first aid. The number is actually slightly bigger than that because we did 2 trainings this week. 238 young people in our community have been impacted by the skills learned in this training. We periodically survey our participants, and so that's how we got that data. And then just lastly, I want to say that it's been a great opportunity for both of us to be a part of this program and to be a part of this community who's really seeking this information and really succeeding in increasing our knowledge and understanding of it so that we can help the youth in our community. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great presentation. Is there any, does anybody on the subcommittee, in the school committee have anything to say? Mr. Gendron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you very much for that presentation. I do think this is really important, especially when we're talking about young people and teenagers who, may have a lot of issues that they're working through. And you say 238 young people have been impacted, but you really will never actually know, will you? Because as somebody said, who knows, you might reach out one day and make an impact on somebody that changed their life, and you'll never know about that. Yeah. My question is about the longevity of this. It sounds like this is grant funded. Is there any thought or any discussion about continuing the grant or finding some other source of funding so this is something we can do on a regular basis?
We have talked about it. The good part is that we have instructors that have been trained, so we have a body of trained instructors. So the cost would be more around providing the substitutes and stipends for teachers to come out to the trainings. I know we've discussed it. I don't think we've come up with any firm.
Additionally, one of the other things that we did discuss just this past week was that how do we have this outlive the grant? So one of the things that through the help of the Lowell Television Studio, we can provide not the full training without the instructor, but we can provide core pieces of it. And so we had talked about in one of the upcoming trainings, we have some excellent trainers who we would tape, and we'd be able to provide that to our schools so that during early release days, they could share this information out with staff. If we can get core people in each building trained, then we've got those go-to people. And again, like we said, we do have those trainers. So that's an excellent resource. And speaking of two of the trainers, I'd like to acknowledge two of them who are here tonight. Ann Brady, behavior specialist at for the Lowell Public Schools, and also Nancy Booten, school nurse from the Lowell Health Department and the Lowell Public Schools. And as you can see on the report, it outlines all of our community partners, and I want to acknowledge and thank all of them, and thank you both for presenting tonight.
Any further discussion? Ms. Martin?
If I could, I really just want to add an additional thanks. I think it was great to have this as an opportunity for our school staff, obviously, who are working with our students every day. But I really think what was particularly forward-looking about it was including the community-based organizations who are working with children, these same children, obviously, but in slightly different circumstances, that I think this really was a huge value for them. You know, again, we've had from the community teamwork team, individuals who were invited to participate, who really spoke very highly of the training and felt they got a lot out of it. But I think, you know, looking at the way the grant was crafted, it was really, it dramatically improved increased the impact by including the entire community. Because there are students who may not be comfortable or even acting out in a school environment, that when they're in a more community-based environment that may be the place where they can look for help. So being able to have experts on both sides of that, I think, is a huge help. So thank you very much from the community at large for all your work. Thanks.
And also, it's important to note that anyone that goes through the training can use these skills not just with youth that they work with, but in our own personal lives with family, friends, neighbors, anyone that you come into contact with. So I think it's just really kind of spreading it everywhere. So that's great. And if anyone's interested in taking one of the trainings, feel free to contact Janine, and she can get you in touch with me, because we have a number of dates set up, and we'd love to have as many people from the community as possible. Okay.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you. I just had a comment and a question. I think that, as I recall, years ago, at least at the high school, we had one crisis counselor. And I think that it definitely is an area of need, as my colleague mentioned, with teens, with the issues that our youth face today. My question is, when we came up with that number, which I guess is over 379, because you did two additional trainings, who were those staff members that participated?
Yeah, so it was a lot of school staff, teachers, paraprofessionals, security guards, some principals, phys ed teachers, coaches, and then in the community, there were people from DMH, DCF, Boys and Girls Club, UTEC, Middlesex Community College, nurses. Let me think. Who else we've done trainings with is
UTEC, you just say.
Yeah. There's been lots. The word Lowell General Hospital. There's been lots of kind of buzz about it, and people are emailing and finding out about it and emailing me asking if they can be part of the program. So we've just been filling them in with lots of the dates that we already have set up. So it's nice when you have a training. It's not just teachers. It's people within the community. So everybody's coming together and discussing it together. So it's been great. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Mr. Hoey?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to all of you, but Project Learn, I've only met the people there one time, and I hope to learn more about them. It's a great thing, and just want to thank them. Project Learn, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next order of business are the minutes for approval of the regularly scheduled school committee meeting of Wednesday, February 3rd, 2016. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Mr. Dakota to approve the minutes, seconded by Mr. Gendron. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is the permission to enter for March 2, 2016. So does everybody have that in front of them, or?
Okay, the first item is the Central Massachusetts Special Education Collaborative for $18,018. The next one is Boston Day and Evening Academy for $34,500. Next item is OSEP Center on Positive Behavioral Intervention and Supports for $5,200. Moving right along, New England Eye and Sight Mobile Vision Clinic, $8,000. HMEA for $10,500. And another HMEA for $10,500. Last is Early Childhood Associates Incorporated for $34,000.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve. Motion to approve by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Gendron. Discussion on the motion. No discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next order of business are memorials. We have several memorials. One is for Mary Patrica, retired from the Merkland School. Francis M. Brennan, retired from the Shaughnessy and Daly School. John Nolan, father of Jacqueline Nolan from the Shaughnessy School. Michael Donahue, Lowell High School security guard and the brother of State Senator Eileen Donahue. And Edward Dick, the son-in-law of former Lowell High School football coach Raymond Riddick, and the brother-in-law of Marjorie Miller of the Lowell Adult Education Center. And I think Mr. Gignac has an additional one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to add one more memorial. Although she was not an educator for the Lowell Public Schools, she was a longtime educator in the community, and that is Miss Susan Sykes. Miss Sykes passed away on Wednesday, February 17th, the beloved wife of Darren H. Sykes. Mrs. Sykes taught for nearly 30 years in the community, and as I mentioned, she didn't teach in Lowell. However, the hundreds and hundreds of children that she did teach did move on to Lowell and go through our school system, and she will be greatly missed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I think Mr. Jenner has some additional remarks concerning Michael
Thank you, Mr.
Donahue.
Mayor. I think we, as a committee, as always, send our best wishes to the families of all of these individuals. But I did want to make a quick comment regarding Michael Donahue, who is a current employee and security guard at Lowell High School. Security guards these days have become much more than just security guards at our high school. I think they are official greeters. Everybody that shows up at the high school goes to the security guard at the desk and gets a badge and gets directions to where they're going. They're friends to the students, as we just heard. Our security guards are taking these classes in mental health so that they can better know how to deal with students in our school. And frankly, our security guards probably touch more kids than any individual teacher at the school on a daily basis. They see them, they know what's going on. And that was Michael Donahue. He's a man who loved his job and was always there with a smile and a hello. I consider him a friend. Every time I was down there, he was always had a friendly comment and was there to help me with any particular need I had as a parent. And I know that I've had so many students, young people that I know who have gone through this school who felt the same way about him. So I just wanted to make a quick comment about him and wish he, his wife, and his children, and the entire Donahue family the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business are the motions. before the school committee. The first is a motion by, is a combo motion by Andy Dakota and Jackie Doherty to respectfully request that the superintendent provide the committee with the current status and membership by school of each school site council, along with the list of the meeting times for the remainder of this school year. In addition, to provide the committee with an updated membership list and meeting schedule for the 2016-2017 school year prior to October 1st, 2016. No second is needed. Mr. Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is being requested after having heard at the Lowell Citywide Parent Council meeting that some schools had not submitted a school site council, a list of names, or the schedule. And from what we understand, it is a mandate that's supposed to be followed by all schools. So we'd like to see that happen sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. For me, it's part of that whole effort to reinvigorate the citywide parent council. It starts at each school. I mean, actually, I back it up. It starts at the superintendent level, and from the superintendent making it imperative that each school value and welcome their parents to be engaged partners in the education of our students. And as my colleague, Mr. Dakota, mentioned, it is mandatory that every school has an active school site council, which as part of our motion, we expect to have every school with a school site council and scheduled meetings by the fall. But if there are meetings and teams already happening, we'd like to know about that for the rest of this spring school year as well. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. The next motion of the evening is by Mr. Gignac to request that the superintendent provide a timeline for the fiscal year 2017 budget deliberations and presentations. Seconded by Mr. Hoey. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Mr. Gendron has a similar motion, and if it's okay with him, we can probably just take them up together.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Is that okay?
We can take number 14 at the same time.
Okay, so if there's no objection from the school committee, then we'll do that by general consent. Okay, Mr. Gignac.
Thank you. The motion's pretty clear, and I think I'd also like to take this time to introduce our new school business administrator, Mr. Gary Frisch, who has recently started, I think, last week. So welcome to the council chambers, and welcome to the Lowell Public Schools.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Frisch did provide a budget calendar for us. And if you could just take the time to go over that now, Mr. Frisch, we'd appreciate it.
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is a draft of the budget calendar. I was going to review that on March 24th to finalize the calendar, but tentatively, I would make with superintendent, make a recommendation to, of the budget at the April 28th, 2016 meeting. At that time, it would be in draft form. We would hold budget hearings on May 2nd, and then budget adoption May 9th. The intent is to have the budget presented to the city on May 17th. That's what they requested. So we work backwards from that date.
Mr. Gignac?
That's fine with me. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Gignac and I are apparently on the same wavelength for this meeting with our motions. Gary, welcome to Lowell.
Thank you.
We're throwing you right into the fire here. You've got a big job ahead of you, but we're counting on you, so we'll see how this goes. My concern is to deliver the budget on April 28th and then have hearings, one hearing on May 2nd and the 9th. I feel like we're a little bit under the gun there. Is there any way we could get a version of that budget a little sooner? I think it might be worthwhile to have more than 1 week to review it. Maybe
Sure.
Also, have it go to the finance subcommittee prior to, a hearing.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Yes, that is possible.
In my motion, I said April 1st.
1st.
But, maybe we could meet halfway there. Maybe by mid-April, we could get a first draft of that budget so we
Okay.
can begin those
That
analysis.
seems reasonable, and it's right around April 15th, so it'll be taxing time.
There you go, perfect. So let's use April 15th then, shall we?
Yes.
I would suggest that we update my motion, rather than say deliver a draft by April 1st, it's deliver a draft by April 15th, and we'll use the projected timeline for the budget hearings going forward. So I'll put that in the form of an amendment to the motion. Mr. Mayor, is that appropriate?
Sure. Okay.
So deliver a draft by April 15th is the proposed change.
Okay, so Mr. Jenner is offering an amendment to the main motion to have the budget by April 15th, which is a Friday. Do we have a second to the amendment? Second by Mr. Gignac. Discussion on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, all opposed? The amendment becomes part of the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the main motion? All opposed? So voted?
Aye.
The next motion has been withdrawn, item 13. And so we'll move on to, excuse me.
I'm sorry if I could, so we haven't approved the report yet, though, right? We've approved the motion, but we still have the report that was being offered by the,
Okay.
okay. So I don't know if you want to talk about that later when it's supposed to be, or we could just put it to bed right now if we had any other questions on it.
What's your pleasure?
I can go right now. I just wanted to follow up. So we're pushing it up to April 15th, which I think is great, and I appreciate your flexibility on that. So would that then put us, I'm trying to pull up my calendar here. Our next meeting after that April 15th would be, we wouldn't have another meeting then until May 2nd, is that correct?
Right.
So, okay, so it doesn't really push up anything there. And so let's see. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm looking at the right.
Why did you say that?
Do you want to push up the budget hearing?
What I'd like to be able to do is perhaps add a day. I mean, traditionally, when we've had particularly challenging budgets, we've gone over, it's taken more than one meeting, more than one hearing.
Sure.
So even if we just have one kind of on deck that we schedule to, if we get through it quicker, then that's great. But if we don't have it on the schedule, then it's very difficult for us to convene quickly. So I would just, and if you even wanted to come back to us with what dates work on your end, that would be fine.
Okay.
But just so that we have the time, because we do a pretty,
Sure.
it's a line-by-line process that can take some time.
So we'll add a second budget hearing.
If we could, I'd appreciate that, I don't know.
You all set?
I am, thank you very much.
Mr. Dakota?
As I recall, when we voted on the spring break meeting, we said if we had to, we would leave that door open, so we should keep that door open. Thank you.
All right, so is there a motion by you, Ms. Martin, to approve the budget calendar as amended?
Sure, absolutely, so moved.
Okay, do we have a second to that? Mr. Gignac, discussion on that? All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Item 13 is withdrawn, and so item 15 is a motion by Ms. Martin requesting the establishment of a standing monthly meeting of the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee to take place on the second Monday of each month, with permanent agenda topics of a report from the school or district team on a curriculum initiative taking place in the district. All requests for research access involving LPS student or teacher populations, and any referred topics voted on by the full Lowell School Committee. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Mr. Gendron. Ms. Martin on the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just hoping to establish this as a standard calendar item. The Curriculum Instruction Subcommittee has historically met on a monthly basis. It's been an opportunity for the administration to be able to really highlight some of the innovative and creative activities that are happening in the schools. The ability to kind of look at the research requests always has gone through the Curriculum Instruction Subcommittee as well. It saves a step by just having that as a standing committee. And then obviously anything that the full committee chooses to refer to curriculum instruction would be taken up, on a regular basis, could simply be added to that permanent agenda. I would appreciate my colleagues' support in this if there aren't any concerns. Thanks.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, I'd like to have a clarification on the line that says, all requests for research access involving LPS students and teacher populations, not really sure I understand whether we're looking at a report on those or request of permission on those.
Historically, any research that's taken place in the district has had to come before the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee and ultimately to the full committee for approval, so that we'd have, most times it's from the university, UMass Lowell graduate students, who will put together their presentation. It's presented through the administration, through the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. Her staff will review it, and then they will bring, usually the researcher themselves will come to the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee to kind of present what they're looking for, so the subcommittee can ask any questions regarding usually it focuses around privacy issues and our concerns around that, ensuring that we're, adhering to all those protocols. But it happens on a fairly frequent basis. We usually will review, I would say, between 6 to 10 over the course of any year, on an ongoing basis as the semester starts, and a lot of the doctoral students need to get access to student populations. Does that clarify what?
Yeah, that clarifies.
It's a pretty standard system. I know there's a checklist and everything that researchers need to present to us, which has been very, very helpful, certainly, as we discuss who's allowed to have access.
Mr. General.
Chair recognizes Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you. I guess I have a little bit of trouble with the motion, in that the motion is a standing committee that would meet on an ongoing basis. And my problem with that is that the way that it is on the city council, and I think that the way that it should be on the school committee, and I admit that I've only been here for a couple of months, so I don't know how it's been in the past, but it's the usual practice that subcommittees don't just meet on their own and take up their own items, that that items are referred by the full school committee to the subcommittee, and then the subcommittee deals with that item and reports back to the full committee. If there's a standing subcommittee that's going to meet on an ongoing basis, then what happens is that subcommittee would be, it takes away some of the authority that belongs to the full school committee. And I can understand that maybe you don't want to come in here every couple of weeks with a different, with a different request for a meeting. But I got to think that you don't meet all that often. And I also think that that these matters first belong to the full school committee, all 6 people, and that they should then be referred to a subcommittee. And I think that about all subcommittees. I think that's just proper procedure.
Ms. Martin?
I'll certainly adhere to your concept. That's fine. I will guarantee that I'll make a monthly motion to have the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee meet, because there is, I think, real value in having the school site groups, as well as administration have an opportunity to highlight curriculum initiatives. I think if generally our meetings take about an hour, and I don't believe you'd want to add another hour to this meeting. But I do think that we do our best to ensure that we're bringing the information forward to the full committee so that everyone does at least get a sense of what has happened at the subcommittees. So if we want to do it that way, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. We can also have the researchers come to the full committee. If you'd be more comfortable having those presentations happen here, that's certainly fine. Like every subcommittee, we don't get to make decisions. So everything we do always has to be ratified by the full committee. So we don't have an opportunity to enact anything, because like every other subcommittee, we don't have the power to do that, which is why we have to come back to the full committee to have everything approved. But however you'd like this to function, I can certainly live with.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. I just am concerned about the precedent that it would set, that you could have, if the curriculum subcommittee can do that, then why can't every subcommittee just meet and take up their own items whenever they feel like it? And although the subcommittee does not have the power to make a decision, if the three-member subcommittee votes against something on a 2-to-1, then it never comes before the full school committee. And so, and probably those items belong there in the first place. The only reason that I think that you even have any subcommittees at all is so that they can be little working committees, almost little workshops to deal with an issue in a more intense, on a more intense basis than the full committee has the time to do. And so that's my objection. And it's really, my concern is more for the precedent that you would set for other subcommittees going forward than it is for anything else. I know that 2 years ago, there was somebody called an emergency meeting of the finance subcommittee on the city council, and there was a lot of pushback on that because that had not been referred, the matter had not been referred to the finance committee by the full city council. And so that was a time when the finance committee took action on their own, or at least made a recommendation on their own. But that's the only time that I can ever remember that happening. And I just think, again, that it's just a bad precedent to set going forward.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, and just for purposes of clarification through you to the mayor, I think that my experience in the past with subcommittees was that we delved deeper into topics, and then when we brought it before the full committee, even if it was a 2-to-1 vote against, the full committee weighed in on that decision. My question, because I'm trying to understand, I'm not for or against anything, just trying to understand what makes the most sense. If you notice in this week's packet, we had some pretty lengthy reports about the new laws around physical restraint, our student dropout rates. These typically, from my prior experience in past history with the school committee, would start at the subcommittee level, where we might spend an hour on each report asking questions, getting clarification, and then when it came before the full committee, there would be that discussion as well about the report, but maybe some clarification. So using the example of those two reports that are in this week's packet, would they still, we can talk about it tonight, but we're not going to spend an hour on the drop, and maybe it doesn't require an hour, but I think new physical restraint laws that have just come into effect January 1st and how the district is dealing with getting that information out to our staff is important. So how would that go forward? Would that be something that we would just send to subcommittee to review, or would we just talk about it tonight and that would be it?
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Chairman, yeah. All right, let's just take, for example, let's take any subcommittee. The proper procedure would be for the matter to be before the full city council, the full school committee, and then the matter is referred to the subcommittee. And the subcommittee then does the work that you're talking about and then reports back. But the full school committee at least is aware that that subcommittee is working on that issue and is expecting a report back at some time. And any member of the school committee can ask for a report from the subcommittee at any time. And at least that way everybody stays in the huddle, and there's a little more transparency. You could instead have a subcommittee that's just decided to, I don't know, glaze all the windows at Lowell High School. And somebody could just decide to do that, for an example. And they call a subcommittee meeting and they decide to do that. Well, if the vote for the subcommittee is to glaze the windows, then it's going to have to come back before the full school committee. But if it was the opposite thing, it was a 2-to-1 vote, then against, then maybe it's never coming before the full school committee because there's not going to be a recommendation to do something or to not do something. If something's initiated by the subcommittee, and it's discussed only in the subcommittee, which is comprised of only half of the school committee, less than a majority, and if there's a 2-to-1 vote in opposition, then there's no reason for that subcommittee to then bring the matter which never came from the school committee, back to the school committee. It would just die. And it could be that it's a good idea, or an idea that was proposed by the superintendent that they were really pushing for, and it could just die in that subcommittee. And so that's really my objection. And it's a matter of procedure, and I think it's, you know, I'm not sure that it's in Robert's rules, but that's kind of the way most committees handle their subcommittees, and it's the way that it should be. And it makes it fair for every member of the school committee to at least know what's going on, or what other other subcommittees are doing. And I think that's important going forward, and I think it also helps for the school committee to get along better if they know that, there's that kind of communication between the school committee and the subcommittee. So that's really my objection. I just think it's a bad precedent to set.
Sorry, did you have further comments? Mr. Hoey?
Thank you. 20 years ago, I kind of remember after a meeting, we'd all say to each other, hey, I want to have a subcommittee on the high school. And I'd say it to all my colleagues and say, is that okay with everybody? And they'd say fine, and would work the date out. So I'm kind of leaning toward the way the mayor's saying it. I think it is the way you should do it. Because if you just call when you want to, I actually was waiting around for a call saying we're having a subcommittee. I thought you just wait and someone's going to call you, or I would have already brought it to the floor. I didn't even realize you had to bring a motion to the floor, because that's how we did it 20 years ago. I know that's a long time ago, but I just feel like the mayor has, sounds more logical to me, that's all. I just wanted to give my opinion on it.
Mr. Gignac?
Thank you. Just for an example, we might have to change some of our existing policies to conform to this, because I was the chair of the facilities ad hoc building naming subcommittee, and that process was a group would submit a request to name a dedication for somebody. That would go to the building principal for approval, then to the superintendent's office. Then it was referred to the subcommittee directly from the superintendent. And then the subcommittee would meet with the requesters and then take a vote up or down, and then it goes before the full body. And that's the existing policy, so we'll have to change that. And I know there's a building naming request currently outstanding that's been sitting out there since April, I think. So I don't know how you want to handle that, but.
Is there further comment? So, Mr. Superintendent, did you have a comment?
May I offer a clarification, please? I know from my past experience that policies overshadow everything and they trump everything else. If the school committee has a policy, for instance, we used to have the committees running the way the mayor is describing it, but when it came to budget season, the school committee had a policy that said the budget, before you bring it to us, you need to go take it to the subcommittee for finance and budget, and then you get all the details, and then you bring it back. And we were able to do that because there is already an agreement among all school committee members, a permanent agreement in the form of a policy that I'm not sure we would have to go change policies for certain things that all school committee had already agreed on, that this is the way we would like to do them. I think that might be the way to go about things.
Mr. Mayor.
Just, I would just want to, through the chair, if I could ask the maker of the motion if there is a way that we could amend the motion to be in compliance with that policy, but still allow you to have the meetings that you wanted to have on a regular basis, or are you thinking that what's necessary is for you to have the meeting on this, the announcement of the meeting on this agenda all the time?
No, I think what I'll just, and I'd be more than happy to pull back my motion and instead make a substitute motion that at our next school committee meeting, we have the administration bring before us a school team or a district team to talk about an innovation in the district. So that would give us all an opportunity to hear it firsthand, and then we can just have that presentation here at the meeting. Mm-hmm. And if there are any requests for research, we'll have those individuals come to the full meeting, and we can all have access to the information at the same time. So at this point, I'd make my motion that at our next meeting, I'm sorry, so I've withdrawn my motion, if that's, copacetic.
I think that's fine.
And then my substitute motion would be that to request at our next school committee meeting that we have the administration bring before us a school-based team or a district team to talk about an innovative curriculum initiative happening in the Lowell Public Schools.
Okay, I have a substitute motion on the floor. Do I have a second on that substitute motion? Second by Mayor Kennedy. Before we vote, I just wanted to make a quick comment. Having served on both of these bodies, the City Council and School Committee, one of the things I have noticed is the greater reliance on subcommittees, I believe, on the school committee. And I think because of the level of detail at, for instance, a curriculum subcommittee, it's very helpful to have Ms. Martin run that 2-hour meeting and report to us. We are certainly all welcome to attend, but there have been many times where I'm very happy to have Ms. Martin run the details of that meeting, and we focus on other things. At the same time, I can fully see the protocol issue that the mayor brings up. So I think the substitute motion is a good compromise. All in favor of the substitute motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item before the school committee is the subcommittee report on the curriculum subcommittee. Report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, February 9, 2016. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Mr. Hoy, second by Ms. Martin.
Nope, that's okay. We can just do the minutes. That's okay.
Okay, all right, did you want to do a report? No? I don't mind at all.
It's great, thank you. Feeling very Sarah Palin, like I've gone rogue somehow in trying to introduce more meetings into my life, but that's okay. So the meeting did happen on February 9th of the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee. Present from the subcommittee were myself and Ms. Doherty. From central office, we had Assistant Superintendent Claire Abrams, Dr. Roxanne Howe, Amy McLeod, Robin Desmond, Andrew DeRoches, and also from the Morey School presenting were Susan Uvani, Danielle Savoy, Paula Borgasano, Lizette Crowley, Deborah Kaur, Patty Myers, and Ellen Money. So we had 3 topics that we discussed at the meeting. First was a presentation from the Morey School principal, Robin Desmond, and a group of her teachers who came to talk to us about the innovations that are happening at the Morey School. Some of the school priorities that she shared were attendance. Their attendance data over the past 3 years for chronic absences at the Morey School was 7%, which represents, in comparison to the state average of 12.9%. Acknowledging that they spent a great deal of time, both teachers and administrators, connecting with parents and families to ensure that students were attending. In terms of parent engagement, they had more than 100 of their teacher and parent meetings that were happening, always with staff available to translate, featuring monthly PTO meetings and other fun family activities. They utilize a workshop model for instruction with grade-level vertical teaming, planning and decision-making, data-driven decision-making, community partnerships, 21st century after-school, summer school programming, teacher reflections. I'm just reading off a list at this point. And then the ELL strategies and growth, and a listing of the community partners that they had. It was certainly a very inspiring meeting to hear both teachers and administrators talk about the level of faith that they have in each other and the work that they do. And I suspect that for Ms. Doherty and myself, it was certainly really encouraging to see the numbers at the Morey and how the team works together to really support not just the individual students in their classroom, but also the families as a whole, engaging with them, and I think in a very palpable way, which has had a real impact on their performance. Second topic was the financial literacy, the general citizen student group. This came out of a motion at a previous meeting inviting the Generation Citizen group to come before the curriculum subcommittee to talk about the status of financial literacy happening at the high school. Unfortunately, no members of the committee were able to attend. The students weren't able to attend, but they did have staff from the high school speaking about it. We did, I think, get a better sense of the full scope of financial literacy that's happening at the high school, which was encouraging, that it has been incorporated into the grade 9 seminar, that planning is going on for introducing it in a stronger way with the freshman academy, and that there really has been work across courses and across content areas to include financial literacy as part of our economics, the financial algebra, which, as I said at the time, seems like the worst of all worlds of a class, but that's okay. And then also including the annual financial literacy fair, which is a result of the partnership with Jean Dark Credit Union. And overall, I think the information I know has gone back to the students that they really just weren't aware of the depth of financial literacy that had in fact been put into the high school. Finally, we talked about the phonics program. This is a new program that's been put in place for K through 12. Obviously, it focuses on phonetic awareness and helping our students with their reading skills. So we'll be able to hopefully report back at some point as to the efficacy of this in our programming, and ultimately we'll be looking to move it forward to fourth grade. But for right now, we're looking at a K2 program for the district. I'd submit that as a report of progress. There are no motions for the committee to take in terms of.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Doherty, then Mr. General.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to second that motion as a report of progress, and also just point out one thing that really stuck out for me that night with the Maury presentation was how, and I know Ms. Martin mentioned it, how collaborative the team was, the staff and the administrators really working together, and how much they had engaged parents. They had monthly PTO meetings, they have all kinds of fun nights and activities, and what that showed bottom line in terms of the improvements on students' scores. One example that jumped out at me was in 2014, they had 51% that were moving in either very low or the low category on their test results, and that moved to 14%, from 51 in low category to 14% in 2015. To show that kind of growth really speaks to the results of that kind of collaborative effort. And I just wanted to point that out because it resonated with me. Thank you.
Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a quick comment with regard to what a great asset we have to have the Jean Darc Credit Union in the high school, offering a class in banking. At the high school, my son was fortunate enough to be able to take that class, and he has learned a great deal. He's given me investment ideas, and he's actually will be studying finance in college, and I think that this had a lot to do with it. So it's a resource for the kids to do their banking, and it's also a terrific educational resource for the high school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So voted. Moving on to reports of the superintendent. The first report is the 2016 graduation dates and the Lowell High School commencement speaker. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In front of you, we submitted what is recommended as the graduation dates for both the Lowell High School, which is now planned for Wednesday, June 8th at 6 p.m. at the Sangha Center, and for the adult education on Friday, June 3rd at 7 p.m. Obviously, Mr. Mayor, all school committee members, you are welcome and invited, as usual. We'd love to see all of you there. That would be wonderful. Thank you. If you have any question, we have Mr. Martin here. I'm sure he can answer any detailed question.
Any discussion on item 17? Chair would entertain a motion to accept there is a report of progress by Mr. Jenner and second by Ms. Doherty. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next item is the school committee meeting dates for 2016-2017. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just an amendment to the old one. We had found out there was an error in a calendar that was posted at MASC, so we called them up. They corrected theirs, and we corrected ours accordingly. And what they had reported as the school vacation in that year was actually 1 week off. So this is just an amendment of that one. It's just to accept it one more time with the amendment.
Motion approved by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Dakota. Discussion. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next item is the the revised 2016, 2017 school, oh, okay. All right. Yes.
I see that we've got the February, 2 meetings in February. Is that, but only 1 meeting in April? Am I reading that right?
You know, right, we're back that February, and
In 2017, I'm looking at, not,
right. I'm looking at the 2017. Yes, this is as a result of the, I'm just looking if that's, I'm sorry?
yeah.
Think so, yeah. I think she they sent you the old
19th.
one. If you,
Should we delay action on this till the next
could you
meeting?
please, Mr. Mayor, because I think she sent you the old printout with the
Okay.
new explanation.
No problem.
So, let me just look into that, yeah. February 1. It's the February that's missing, I think. It's the February that's missing, Connie. It is the February that's missing. If I may, Mr. Mayor, the correction was that the February 20th is the, where the school vacation starts, so it shouldn't affect the 3rd February, which is the school committee meeting. So this is the old printout, definitely. We will have that corrected for you for next time.
Just looking at the school committee meeting dates?
Yeah,
Okay.
which,
Because that has 2 dates in February in it, the 1st and the 15th, but only 1 in April.
Another April.
yeah. Which is correct, it would be correct, but mine has only, let me see if you, what you gave me. Yeah, we have, can we delay that to the next meeting, please? Yeah, thank you. She has two.
All right, so
I move we delay action on the school committee calendar until the next meeting.
Right. No.
okay, on item 16 and 17.
Yes.
Is probably what's best, right? Okay. So we have a motion to delay action until the next meeting by Mr. Gender and seconded by Mr. Doherty. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next item, item 20, is a response to Mayor Rodney Elliott's motion of October 21st, 2015 regarding the scholarship opportunity for Lowell High School students through the Veterans of Foreign War. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask Ms. Abrams, Assistant Superintendent, to talk a little bit about this motion.
Thank you. So attached to the motion stating that Lowell High School students through the Veterans Foreign War Scholarships would have more scholarships. What Mr. Martin has prepared for us this evening is a result of the work that the high school will begin to do so that more opportunities for our students at Lowell High School can take place to have scholarships directly for them. Across the states and national, there are many VFW scholarships that are given out to students all over. But specifically now at the high school, Mr. Martin has asked Lieutenant Colonel Peter D'Amico to take over this charge at the high school and have offered many different ways that this could happen, and that is all explained in the attachment to you tonight. So it is a response to the former mayor, and I think the plans moving forward will be accepted.
Any discussion? Hearing none, the Chair will entertain a motion to accept it as a report of progress by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Gendron. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next item, item 21, is the monthly financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gary Frisch and Mr. Frank Antonelli met several times, worked over the weekend to pass on the, particularly on this report, to try to get the same report, and it's a little thick. I'm going to ask Mr. Frisch to go over the details of this one.
Okay, thank you. There are 3 sets of financial reports that were provided to the school committee as part of the packet. I have added, if Frank's suggestion, a more detailed report to the monthly financial reports. The new report is called the Year-to-Date Budget Report by Function/Object. It is a 9-page report which provides more details behind each function. I've provided a cover memo, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Yes,
Mr. Gignac.
sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Frisch, for providing this report. And I just have a question. It's probably more for the superintendent. The assistant superintendent of business line, that account is 95% spent as of January 1st.
What page, please?
It's the first page of the year-to-date budget report by function and object that Mr. Frisch was referring to.
That's a question for you. Okay. And the question is, Mr. Gignac?
And my question is, the assistant superintendent for business line item has been 95% expended as of January 31st. Now we're in March. So my question is, what is the plan with that account? Because Mr. Frisch is here now, and you're going to need some sort of budget transfer, I assume, if you haven't already gone in the red.
No, the plan, and then now I'd let Gary add any detail. The plan is to figure out where we have, as you know, in the salaries, we always have some spent and some not spent, and make sure that we make sure that we do the proper transfers so that we can cover that line.
Okay. You might not know this off the top of the head, but how much did we spend on Mr. Antonelli's services?
Have that on the.
Okay, can you provide that to us at the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Doherty.
Thank you. I also had a question regarding on the year-to-date budget report by location.
Okay.
It says the McHugh Riverside Alternative School is 100% used. I'm not sure if I'm understanding that correctly, but we still have quite a bit of time to go, right? So that would be page 1 at the very bottom of that list, McHugh Riverside Alternative School, and used at 100%.
Because of the encumberment, because it's, if I may explain it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you see that, it's because if you look at this, what was spent, the total budget was 868,063. What was spent is 347,225.20. What was encumbered was 520. It's encumbered from here to the end of the year. It's blocked, but it's not necessarily spent. It's
I see.
encumbered.
Okay,
You're all set.
I'm all set.
Mr. Gendron.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Frisch, I have a request for a task for you that
Okay.
nobody's been able to accomplish yet. So we'll
Okay.
see if you have the skills. If we could find a way to get these financial spreadsheets into the electronic file so that they read
Okay.
properly, so I don't have to lie on my desk to read the numbers. It's hard enough to read these things as it is.
Right.
If we could get that page turned into the electronic file so that,
We'll
see,
definitely work
it's-
on that.
and if I turn my iPad, it flips around, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll enjoy
you.
working on that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, Ms. Martin?
If I could just ask, so is the encumbrance, just to harken back to the Brady alternative, is that because it's the alternative school with Middlesex? Is that why it's encumbered differently than all the other schools that are showing a lower percentage of spent?
Yes.
So that's the difference between that and the others. Okay, great, thanks.
Any further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion to accept the report as a report of progress. We have a motion by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Hoy to do that. Any discussion? All in favor, all opposed? So voted. Moving on to the next item is a response to Mayor Rodney Elliott's motion of December 2nd, 2015 regarding scholarship opportunities from the Voice of Democracy. Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. And again, I will ask Ms. Abrams or Mr. Martin here to respond. Thank you. They prepared the budget.
So once again, the VFW is bringing forward the Voice of Democracy Scholarship Program. And the headmaster has had a communication that the scholarship information will go forward to the Lowell High School Scholarship Online application process and be promoted through Lowell High School College and Career staff. Wonderful opportunity for our students to take the initiative to come up with an essay that really speaks forward to the voice of democracy and what they think and how they feel that they can move forward. And that being the case, they have an opportunity to receive scholarship money for college and beyond. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I think having it placed in the high school and the college career center is certainly the right place at this time. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion to accept it as a report of progress by Mr. Gendron, second by Mr. Dakota. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. The next is a response to a motion by myself on January 20, 2016 regarding the STEM curriculum at Lowell High School. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We followed that motion, and I asked Ms. Abrams and Assistant Superintendent Curriculum and to work with the high school, and they prepared, I think, a very detailed report. I will ask Ms. Abrams to explain a little bit and go over the report, but I also have some additional comments that happened since after the submission of the report that I had with Mr. Martin and also with their curriculum director, Amy McLeod. So, Ms. Abrams.
So the first thing I did place on your desk this evening, part of this report, I believe, and it was just brought to my attention, did not make it through in the packet. So I don't know if you really probably have not had time to review it. So I'll turn it to the mayor, what you'd like to do.
Well, why don't you go ahead and give your report? And then
Okay, all right.
take it from there.
So we did receive communication from the headmaster and from Amy McLeod, the director of curriculum at Lowell High School, speaking to what is in place, what is going to happen, and in the future, how STEM will continue to come alive at the high school. As you can see, there are certain questions that Ms. McLeod has addressed, that if you're going to have a STEM curriculum or a specialty at your high school, you have to make sure that certain things are in place. Some of the things that she's referred to is the school providing a real STEM experience for interested students? They feel strongly that they are. Students in 9th grade are given questionnaires to ask what specifically in the field of STEM they would like to study. So that's an opportunity for them as well. Is the school preparing students for STEM careers? There are many opportunities at Lowell High School, with more opportunities to come for students to be enrolled in courses in either science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, so that they can be aware and be ready for the world that awaits them in the field of STEM. So again, that is something that the high school is currently working on, district-wide with us. It's really, the high school is a place where a lot of this comes together. But one thing I do want to add is from the elementary level up until the high school level now, we do have this Project Lead the Way, which is a grant that we received in the district that right now we have students in grades 3 and 4 who will be working on STEM initiatives and all kind of engineering projects. Each school that is working on this, and right now it's just our STEM Academy, but received iPads specifically to start to build models and get more familiar with STEM. At the middle level, we have this happening at one of our schools right now where some of the teachers were able to go to the Project Lead the Way program over the summer. Again, they're involved now in developing and making different models of whatever the students really want to try to work with. And then it begins, we had high school teachers who went to this training last summer, and they will begin the program, I believe, this coming fall at the high school. So it's really kind of a district-wide movement as well. But in terms of the high school, the next question that they asked were, are the students working with computers and with technology? And they certainly are doing that in their STEM classes. They also have connections with the Makerspace which I recommend everyone should go to see. It's phenomenal, and the students have an opportunity at the high school now with the Makerspace to go in and build and explore and see what are the different things that they can work on for the future. And do teachers have the backgrounds in the subjects that they are teaching? Again, the high school says yes, they do. They have backgrounds in all types of STEM subjects, and so they are teaching them. But our job as, in professional development is to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all teachers. And if we want to bring in new opportunities or new lessons, Project Lead the Way is going to help us do that. And I think next year when we begin that at the high school with the 9th grade teachers, I believe there will be 2, Brian. You can correct me if I'm wrong. This will begin at the high school as well. So it's a work in progress. There are a lot of things that have taken place in the past. Right now, it's just really getting things to move forward. STEM is alive everywhere. Anyone who had the opportunity, if you did, to join our STEM science fair just a few weeks ago, you will see that this is building up from the elementary level up through the high school. It was a phenomenal evening, and just to watch these students be excited about the things that they're discovering, it's just a wonderful feeling as director of curriculum instruction. It just makes you feel, well, that we're on the right track. We have a long way to go, I will say that, but I think this is where we are at this point. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following this report, I had met one more time with Mr. Martin and Ms. Amy McLeod, and I think when we looked over their report, it became very apparent to us that they have most of the ingredients that are really you would normally find in a STEM program. And I think what we're talking about is really trying to refine and put it in a better, more visible, more concrete package. They have the know-how, they have the courses required. They just try to repackage it, make it more visible to people. Have it even. I've suggested to them to even maybe have a pamphlet developed for the parents to see about what we have in STEM and how their students can take advantage of STEM opportunities. And I know this was a meeting last week during that Makerspace inauguration day, and I'm waiting for another report. Ms. Amy McLeod promised us that she will do just that. Come back to us with a proposal how to reconfigure this and repackage it for next year, and have also some documentation for us.
Any further discussion? If not, the chair would like to make a motion to accept the report as a report of progress, and if there's no objection, to refer it to the curriculum subcommittee for a report and recommendation later on.
Second.
Report later on. We have a second by Mr. Gendron. Discussion. All in favor? All opposed? So voted.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 24, physical restraint policy. Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask Ms. Durkin, our Assistant Superintendent for Student Support Services, to talk about this draft of a new policy.
Thank you, Mrs. Superintendent. This past January 1st, the legislature adopted a new policy for physical restraint guidelines, and what you have before you is our draft of the physical restraint policy to align with the new legislation, and also very specific guidelines and procedures for each of our schools to follow to make sure that we are following the new policy. In preparation for the new legislation, I just wanted everyone to know that during summer leadership, we provided our leaders with foreshadowing of the new legislation that was coming out in January. We also developed that draft policy and submitted it to our staff council, developed that and submitted it to our administrators during September and November leadership for feedback and refinement. Then through the month of December, it was a yeoman's effort, but because we knew we needed to be ready for our January 1st trainings and implementation, District Support Specialist Fred McCosker, and our two behavior modification specialists, two behavior specialists, Christine Adams and Paula Peters, provided district-wide training to every person who needed to have that training for crisis intervention training. So that occurred during the month of December. And then we also provided training for our principals to provide during January early release day so that all staff were kept abreast of the new legislation. So I know that that's a lot for you in that packet, but what is in there immediately following the overview report is the actual legislation. Then following that is the old policy. I wanted you to see what the old policy was, and then you will see indicated in red, you will see the draft policy and the new guidelines that our schools are following to ensure that we're implementing the policy. If you see fit, we could vote to approve that policy. If you would like to talk further about that or want additional information, I also have Staff Counsel Mike Ortiz here, and he can speak to that, or we can refer to committee.
Thank you. Any discussion, Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, and I would ask what's the will of the body? I would like to get more information about this. Would it make sense to refer to subcommittee so that we could look at how the laws have changed, what's been the significant difference, or would you prefer to discuss it right now? That's what I'm throwing out there.
I think it's perfectly fine if you want to refer to a subcommittee.
That makes sense.
So then I would make a motion that we refer this to the Student Services Subcommittee for further review and...
Second.
Second by Mr. Gender. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Martin?
If I could just ask, so just so I understand, so the law went into effect on January 1st. This policy that we're looking at, you've already implemented it?
We have reviewed it with all of our staff, every staff member district-wide, and we are utilizing the guidelines. So we would just need the members here
To catch up.
to, approve the draft that's in front of you.
But it's already been implemented.
Yes.
We're already in compliance with the law.
Right.
It just wasn't presented to the committee until.
Correct. We were having difficulty getting a quorum together before the January deadline.
Anything else? Any further discussion? Mr. Hoey?
I was just curious, should that go to the policy subcommittee?
Well, the motion on the floor is to refer to a different subcommittee for
Okay,
right now. If that motion
okay.
fails, then
Could be to the joint committee? Could that be, I don't know if I can say that, but could it be to the joint committee, Student Services and Policy?
that's not the motion on the floor.
I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? Mr.
I
Chairman?
think, I think student support services make sense, and of course, anybody's willing to, or, anybody can attend. So I think I'm okay with that.
Further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? All opposed? So voted. The next item is dropout prevention and recovery report. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is probably the best part of the evening. So I'm going to turn to our Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Durkin, and I know she has Mr. Martin here as well, who would participate in that, and they will present some real good news for us tonight. Thank you. Ms. Durkin.
So yes, if I would have loved to have two spotlights on excellence today, but this is our official annual report of the dropout prevention and recovery as reported by the state. And over the last 11 years, we certainly, as a district, have made some gains, but most notably this past year. And I think Ms. Doherty said it when she spoke about a school and she talked about the collaborative efforts. This truly was the collaborative efforts district-wide with Lowell High School, and we will probably see we know we will see even greater growth over the years as we are working not only with our high school but pre-K through 12 to make a difference. So at this point, I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'm going to turn it over to Attendance Officer Heather Ganley and Headmaster Mr. Martin to outline for you the intervention pieces that played into this.
Thank you. I'm just going to put some boards up here. Thank you. Hopefully everyone can see them. Are we good? Okay. Good evening, Mayor Kennedy, school committee members and administration. Thank you for letting us be here to present exciting work that we've been doing on attendance and dropout prevention. So in front of you is a board with our data on the chronically absent students within our school department. What I want you to notice here is the obvious downward trend, and specifically this last school year, a very big dip, which is 1%. We've actually never seen that much of a decrease in chronic absences before. So then when we look at other comparable districts, this is where we fall. And as you see down here, the state average, we're not too far from that. Let me also just say that we've had a very successful year, and we know that. And we also know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So that in mind, a lot of the work that we've done throughout the district really made this difference. And there are so many different areas that we worked on, but for me, I can classify that as really knowing our data, understanding what we're looking at, the development of the district-wide attendance intervention plan that the district uses, and it's sort of a step-by-step process that they all follow. And this is from kindergarten, like we said, till 12th grade. Also, just our record keeping and journaling of interventions and involvement with all of the collaterals and collaboration, which was a very huge part of this. And also, we had this very large outreach, home visit, aggressive sort of plan within the schools and within the district. So every school has a attendance team, administration team that's developed and designed to, again, do all of that, what I just talked about, looking at data and really outreach and you know, our community collaterals and community partners and the work they've done together, providing services and things that are needed for students has been great. So those are all huge pieces, and there's many more different pieces, but I don't want to take away too much thunder here either. So that's the chronically absent rate, which is what we really look at now. And then our dropout rate, oh, thank you, which, again, I want to just note two sort of areas on this chart. As you see, this is our history, and I'll leave this back up after too. There are two pieces of data here that are actually inaccurate. One being in 07, I think it was 07, 08. And the number is actually inaccurate, so it should have been a little higher. And then I believe it's the 10-11, the data was counted twice. So again, that's inaccurate. So if you can kind of look at really what that is and see where the lines would be, it really is sort of a gradual decrease. Noting, of course, this last school year, I want to just say that we've never actually been that low before on a dropout rate. It's a historical rate, and we've actually never been below the state average, which is, again, really amazing. This was a all outreach kind of recovery, go and get them. And I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know that Brian Martin will be able to fill you in. But basically, as the attendance team and you know, working side by side with the high school, we just ran out and, you know, they'd tell us where they were. We'd kind of get them and bring them back in, and then the high school would take over, and there were many, many plans developed for all of these children. I'll put that back up for you, but I just want to talk about one last piece, which is really the direction we are in. And this is called the ABCs of disengagement, which is really, you know, kind of what we're looking at. This is the formula that we're utilizing, and best research is best practice, and experts in the field are having us look at this. And what I want to say about that is, we know that dropping out is but a final stage in a long process, and a cumulative process. So taking this and using it earlier in our children's lives, and ensuring that they're not disconnecting, and that we're watching and monitoring their absences and behavior and course credit, that we will essentially be able to bring these children to the high school, and for a definite graduation, and dropout shouldn't be, on the book at that point. So again, we're starting earlier, younger grades, younger ages, and lots of outreach. And our bottom plan here is to develop this district-wide tiered model of intervention. So just to provide supports and address issues linked to absenteeism and behaviors and course failure. So ensure that everyone in the district is on board with where do we get our services for the students in need. So that's that, and I'll put the dropout rate back up so that Mr. Martin will also have that. Yeah. There you go. Oh, everybody's got that.
All set?
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think I'd first like to start with a couple of the important issues here, and coming in at my third year at the high school, the one thing that I would emphasize makes the biggest difference is the resources. And so if the school committee supports the school and the personnel and the programs, and then we have the ability to connect with the superintendent's office, with Mrs. Durkin and Heather and Rosa, who are part of a attendance team, and then we've created a house office model that basically means everyone that works through the house, from the housemaster to the counselor to the social worker to the school resource officers to security guards to teachers, all are part of going and putting together programs to bring the kids back. Most of those individuals that I named, those staff people, they will actually do home visits. We'll find a way to get out, knock on the door, and find out what is going on with this individual student. And 99 out of 100 times, it's not the student's fault. It's the circumstances of their lives. They've got a lot of issues to deal with. They somehow have reached a point where they just don't feel that they can make it, either through loss of credit recovery, or they just get behind and they get discouraged. And our job, after we identify the student and the particular issues, is develop a plan for every single student to make it through Lowell High School and receive a diploma. That's our job. Now, we didn't make it zero, but our goal is zero. And I think we've identified how to actually do this over the last couple of years so that we actually know where every single student is. We ended up with, I believe, 55 students in this cohort of 900 that started as freshmen or whatever it was way back. And we can tell you where they are, why they're not coming to school, and what the issues are. We can tell you that 4 or 5 students came from the 8th grade in Lowell, enrolled at the vocational school, never showed up. No one knows where they went. But we get them as dropouts. So we're figuring out how do we deal with that going forward. It seems unfair to us. They've signed up to go out there, and things to that nature. But we've developed partnerships, I believe, that have made a huge difference in these students. Some of them are with the Job Corps, Shriver Job Corps. Now they have a diploma program that's certified, so if some students end up there, they actually are still in school. They're not dropouts. Before, they were dropouts. We work with the Engagement Center with Mrs. Durkin and the staff at the Career Academy, so we have after-school programs for credit recovery. There's students that were falling behind. Now they can go up there April, May, make up a credit, make up a course, so that they can get their diploma. So all of these programs have made a difference in a number of students' lives and have driven the number down. And I think what you'll see going forward is, in my opinion, if everyone does their work and you have the resources, you'll have a pretty consistent number there that will never spike without us really knowing there's something wrong here. And if that continues the trend, then we're impacting these students' lives in a way that were never impacted before. That's a lot of kids up here. It's a lot of lives that have been impacted. So I can't thank the staff enough, Mrs. Durkin, Heather, our housemaster teams. Everyone really has become part of identifying ways to help kids and get them to believe in themselves, come back to school, and achieve that diploma. It really, for our kids, is a large cohort of kids that really have a hard time getting to school. And we found ways to do flexible scheduling. I'll give you an example. Student has a baby and is now taking care of that child. Still coming to school. They're missing days. They're late for school. Well, we've allowed that student to come in second period. Get the baby up, get the baby to CTI daycare, get squared away, come to school. Why wouldn't we do that? That students just graduated, actually, last year. There's at Middlesex Community College. So those kinds of concepts that seem pretty reasonable if you're a parent to find a way for the student to get through school, it made a huge difference. So now we have models. Some students will come to school and go to Youth Build with CTI. So they're getting that support, but then they're going over, they're getting some job training. It keeps the kids in school, and they take courses and finish. So it's the collaboration, I think, that's really made a difference. But having the resources and having a culture at the school that every single student can make it if we provide the support and encouragement is why that number is where it is. So I thank, again, the committee, the superintendent for the resources. You need people that are passionate about this, that will go out and work and knock on doors and go up with Heather, with Dave Pender from the police department, and knock on the third floor door and say, hey, what are you doing? We need you back, and walk through what are the issues and how do we, see if we can transform that student's life. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share what's going on at the school, and thank everyone for their support. Makes a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Gignan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Martin, and your team, and Ms. Durkin. I just want to thank everybody involved, because I remember 3-4 years ago sitting in this room talking about the dropout rate, and it was a much different conversation. And the progress that has been made has been truly remarkable. I mean, looking at, we had over 200, I know it was considered double counted, but the state never changed that number. So when you were looking at moving to Lowell, you saw that dropout rate at 8%. So I can't thank everybody enough for the work they've done, and the fact that you're really making this impact on our students is really incredible. Thank you.
Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to chime in as well and congratulate Mr. Martin and the whole team for the work that they've done with the dropout rate across the city. Another example of great work that's being done at Lowell High School and across the district. This is a historic low in dropout rates, and I sincerely hope that when we pick up our Lowell Sun in the morning that we read about this good news that happens at Lowell High School. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty.
I just want to add, I think aside from the great work that the high school has done and the impact it has on all those young people's lives to get a high school diploma, how important that is today, the whole concept of using a multi-pronged approach, really looking at what the data tells you, how to keep kids engaged, and starting early, identifying when they're in elementary school, if they have chronic absences, and really working that whole, through the child's whole life, the family. Coming to school is important, and starting early with that. It shouldn't all end up on the high school, which I know many of it does, because that's where the what does it say, the tire hits the road or the rubber hits the road? But the point that I'm trying to make is that whole collaborative piece that really, I'm very hopeful that we're going to continue, as Mr. Martin says, to see really high graduation rates. And then our next task, of course, will be looking at how many of our minority students, our English language learners, are moving through that system too, because historically, on a national level, that's been a group that has the highest dropout rates. But this is incredibly exciting news. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Oh, Ms. Durkin.
Just one additional comment. I thank you, Mr. Martin, for bringing up the engagement center. Last year, we were really creative, and we took our a small pool of money that we had that was set aside for students who were suspended out of school. And we decided to do something creative, and we called it the Engagement Center. And with very, very small money, we were not only able to service the students who were out of school suspension, but now this year, we're able to offer the engagement piece both during the after-school hours and in the evening through our adult ed program. We'll have a full report on that to you next week. But I just wanted to applaud those efforts as well. And it truly was a collaborative effort. So I thank everyone for the presentation and also the work.
Any further discussion? Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you for the team. I think it's incredible work. It's a wonderful thing to see that our record low for dropouts and everything else that needs to go up is going up, and everything that needs to go down is going down. It is an effort of K through 12. We need to remember that. It's not just a high school. So you will see us coming back to you with initiatives that will hopefully do what Ms. Doherty is saying, keep it up. And also for all groups, not just the averages. But I do have a question for Mr. Martin. Wasn't there an error on the state that you appealed and you wanted? Is the rate 1.8 or 1.6? Can you explain?
I think, Mr. Superintendent, through the mayor, I think the issue where there were a couple of students from the 8th grade that were not high school students, so they would get counted for the high school even though they never got there. So it's a lot of those little issues that we're digging deep on to figure out where we're being impacted by a policy that perhaps we could change. And,
Right.
So the actual,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Attendance Officer Ganley actually communicated directly with the state. There is no change in the rate. However, we do know that because they know all 55 of the students, who we may get back, that dropped out, they do know that when they started looking at the list, they're like, wait a minute, these students that you're reporting to us never even came to us. So now it's raised our antenna to ask some additional questions. And so when an 8th grade counselor says to us they've transferred to the vocational school, well, the double check begins that moment because there are 4 to 5 students. Is that correct, Heather?
Actually, there are 7.
7.
Yeah.
But the challenge is that the state does not go back
Right.
and change that
As you can
after the October deadline. So I do have to say that this has become from an annual review to a daily review,
Right.
and that's a difference that we've made actually K through 12. So thanks.
The rate that I believe we're also talking about, there are 2 of them. So there's a district rate and then there's a high school rate. So if we want to get specific, high school is 1.6, 47
Right, yeah.
students. District is 55 because we're owning
1.8.
them as a district. And again, of the 55, 7 did not go to Lowell High. They went to the Voc or wherever. 2 went to private, in-state private, which isn't, there's this loophole. No one claims them because it's a private. So you have to know they're going there. Like Ms. Durkin said, we have to call them all and say, do you have any of our students there? So, yeah. High school is 1.6 if we want to get down to it, 47.
Which is
Yeah, I'd take it.
which is one of the best in the area, if you know.
It is. And yes, because if we're going to say 1.6, that's district. That's district. Yeah, you can write it in.
Thank you.
I'm going to take this down,
Any-
or do you want me to leave this up?
Any further discussion? The Chair would entertain a motion to accept it as a report of progress by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next item, item number 26, was discussed previously, but it's the budget deliberation calendar. Do we need any more discussion on that? Hearing none, the Chair would entertain a motion to accept that as a report of progress from Mr. Gendron, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next item, number 27, is parent involvement. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually a report that came out from the same Parents Council, citywide Parents Council. And at the same time, also, I see we have a motion for this today, so it comes in very timely because that would complete the report. We did engage and support the City Council very much so. We meet with them regularly. We have met already twice monthly. The board of the City Council comes, the Parents Council, citywide Parents Council, I'm sorry, comes and meet with us on a monthly basis. We have a schedule for the rest of the year. We also have several staff members that would go and present, depending on the topic that they would like to talk about or present to their parents. So we're very much collaborating with them. One of the questions that they had brought to us was the same as your motion. They found which is all the PTOs and site councils that they don't seem to be all manned and all complete. So we sent out a request at the beginning of the year, before we even started this, to all the schools to send us their rosters, and we've gotten some, and just as was noted, few of them are not complete, and they need to get their act together and start encouraging people to form the city councils, these school council, site councils. And since we sent you this, we got a couple more that completed that. We will continue that, and I think hopefully as a response to the motion voted today is to give you the complete report, and hopefully by then we will have all of them completed if we can. Other than that, if you have any questions on this report, happy to answer.
Any discussion? The Chair would entertain a motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Hoey, seconded by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next item is the middle school intervention program and policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, it is one of those reports that Mrs. Durkin prepared for us, and I'm going to ask Ms. Durkin to present it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. This is a report to share with you, as well as a draft policy, a very small change recommended. Many of you may or may not know that last year's budget did not afford us the opportunity to have a summer school. There was a grant that was providing us those funds over the years, and that grant was pulled from the state, and we didn't, no schools across the state received the funding. So with the elimination of that, we came to the school committee, and we also spoke to our school-based leaders, and we said, you know, summer school, really, we don't want students to fail. We would rather intervene early. So with a very small amount of money, and that money is set aside again this year, we were hoping that we'd be able to do both. But at this point, there is a little over 20,000 allocated. And we surveyed all of our leaders, and they felt that the efforts that they put in place last year to intervene early, they all set up failure intervention models. Some of them held, and we presented this to the committee, Saturday programs for students in danger of being retained, after-school programs, intensive April vacation sessions, and as a result of that, You can see the data that we have provided in the report for you. We are asking that we follow that same model, but that would be a change in our policy. And it's just very slight wording that we would change in our promotion retention policy. And the policy now reads, summer school with principal approval is a requirement. We are recommending that summer school, when budgeted and with principal approval, is a requirement for students who meet the stipulated grade and absent criteria. A failure intervention, this is a piece of the modification. A failure intervention plan will be developed at the school level for students in danger of failing one or more classes in lieu of summer school. So that affords us the opportunity with very small money. We, in the past, it was, we were down to 3 weeks in the summer, and it was costing over $250,000 to provide the summer school, and we had not as great results as we did this past year. Special Programs Coordinator Carolyn Rochelot, thank you, Carolyn, for hanging in there, is also here, and she can speak to the specifics of the data on the students if you have any questions. But if you see fit, I would ask you to consider the draft proposal and voting on that piece so that we could move forward with our intervention planning and get those proposals out to our principals tomorrow.
Ms. Doherty?
I think this sounds like an excellent efficiency when we look at not being able to afford summer school at $250,000 and a program that's actually more effective at $20,000, where 80% of our principals are saying we had better results for less money spent. That's the kind of efficiencies we need more of. So I'm totally in support of making those changes to the policy so we can continue with that.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the policy and to accept the report by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Gendron? Any further discussion on the motion? Roll call on the motion?
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
That concludes that part of the agenda, and now we move on to new business. Under new business, item number 29 is a contract ratification, consideration of, and the vote on the memoranda of agreements for the teachers, paraprofessionals, building service employees, cafeteria workers, and administrators. Chair would entertain a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Gendron, seconded by Mr. Hoey. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment. I'm happy to be finally voting on this ratification of the contract. I think it represents the result. It's a result of a lot of negotiation, but I think it's a good result for everybody involved. I think it's represents the most we can put on the table with regard to a raise. It represents a challenge for us in the coming year as we put our budget together, but I'm confident that we can meet that challenge and find a way to make ends meet, because the teachers do indeed deserve a raise. I wish we could give more. I wish there were more that we could give the teachers, because I do feel as though teachers are generally undervalued by society, and I wish we had a lot of money that we could pay to them. But I think this represents a good compromise in our ability to make ends meet and treating the teachers as they should be treated. My only concern with this is I wish we could have done a third year. I wish we didn't have to go back into negotiation in a couple of weeks to start a new contract. I wish we could have put a third year on the end of this, but with all the factors that came into play, I guess the committee as a whole decided it made sense to move forward with this, and I supported that. So I look forward to a very comfortable negotiation going forward, and hopefully, Mr. Frisch, we can find a way to make this all meet in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Abstain.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 abstain, passes.
Next item is a permission to post the sales associates for the Daniel P. Kane Courtyard Restaurant at Lowell High School. Chair would entertain a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Dakota, seconded by Mr. Gendron. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have conventions and conferences. We have 4 requests for conventions and conferences. If there's no objection, the chair would entertain a motion to take them all up together. We have a motion by Mr. Gignac to do that, a motion to approve. Seconded by Mr. Gendron. Roll call.
Mr. Hoey?
Excuse me, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 35, the members of the United Teachers of Lowell hereby donate 9 sick day leave days to Rachel Brophy at the McAvenue School teacher. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Hoey. Discussion, all, roll call.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Okay, the next, Ms. Martin.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I note that we don't have an old business heading on the agenda. I always thought we had that.
Right. I guess we don't, but we should.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll have one at the next meeting, because there are a couple of items I think that were put off that should come up under old business. But that's
I would agree. So if you are on that, I'll
Okay.
look forward to them.
Next is item 36, which is to go into executive session for consideration of the contract extensions and language for the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction and the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, and consideration of the principal's contract and SEIU bargaining proposals. We take a roll call on that. Is there a motion to go into executive session? A motion by Mr. Gignac to go into executive session, seconded by Mr. Hoey, and in executive session, we would adjourn from executive session if there's no objection. Roll call on going into executive session.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
That's it.
That's all she wrote.